There's a story this week which has been circulating in the media about Donald Trump admitting some South African farmers into America and admitting them as asylum seekers, given the fact that they are running for their lives and gaining admittance into the United States as genuine asylum seekers. And all over the West, the news, the social media, it would seem that it's open season on these people, and it would also seem that their asylum claim isn't quite as valid as the other types of asylum claims that we see generally on a daily basis throughout the whole of the Western world. So I think the first thing we'll do when we're actually looking at this, we look at the atmosphere of South Africa and potentially the reason why a lot of these South African farmers, these white South African farmers, have taken it upon themselves to run for their lives.
I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm saying to you, we've not called for the killing of white people, at least for now. I can't guarantee the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter, they freak out. It sounds like a genocidal call.
Cry babies. Cry babies.
I'm not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now.
I can't give you a guarantee of the future, especially when things are going the way they are.
Subtext.
Especially if things are going the way they are, there will be a revolution in this country, I can tell you now.
Alliance shoot to kill the mother, kill the poor, the farmer, kill the poor, the farmer. Brr, pa, pa, brr, pa, pa.
And doesn't he seem like a pleasant chap to have around the place? And so this Joseph Malema here, this leader of these freedom fighters, and it's always freedom fighters, isn't it, that start the problem. This gentleman here and his rhetoric are causing the death of, on average, one of these white landowners or farmers every week in South Africa. Now, it's been estimated that in South Africa, there's approximately 6,600 larger landowners who produce about 80% of the food of the approximate 64 million South African people. So about 80% of the food is made by these landowners, and these are highly experienced farmers. They know how to husband the land correctly. They've probably done it for generations, and it does require a certain level of understanding and experience to deal with this land. Now, on a different level, there are a number of small holdings in South Africa which do produce a fair percentage of the food, certainly in double digits. And what's been happening, this land grab has been going to some of those people, and as it transpires, a lot of these people are walking away, these native indigenous South African people who've been given these small holdings are generally giving them up because they don't have the experience and the capital behind them with which to sustain these small holdings. So South Africa is about to experience a deep problem because what's happening, there's an exodus of these farmers obviously leaving South Africa. I mean, I'm sure if I was a landowner in South Africa and I was watching this Malema, I would certainly be thinking about leaving the country and taking my family to safety. But of course, as this land gets passed over and more native and indigenous South African people are walking away from the small holdings, and in addition, a lot of these larger holdings of, white African farmers are walking away, leaving the country, or having their land taken from them. This is creating more and more of a food problem, and I think in the coming years we are going to see levels of starvation in South Africa that we haven't seen for quite a while. And this is kind of played out in history before. This happened with Stalin in Russia. There was a huge problem with starvation in Russia due to the land being taken away from the bourgeoisie, shall we call them. That aside, that's a very troubling thing that's happening in our world, and I'm sure you'll agree that it is a worrying thing when genocide is openly being called for by people who are looking to run the country. But more interesting, I think, is the Western response. And so what would our response be to this type of rhetoric? Well, as somebody from the UK, we are supposed to be accepting refugees and asylum seekers who are running from countries who are essentially looking to kill them or war-torn. And isn't it funny, and this is in America obviously, but isn't it funny when it transpires that those people are white, that the reaction from the left-wing media, particularly in places like America, is so anti-white? And so here's a little clip from CNN relating to Donald Trump admitting 59 white people into America who are running from this Mr. Malema here, calling not quite for the genocide, not yet anyway. But, you can imagine why these people would be wanting to run off. And here is the reaction from people like CNN.
So what's the difference between the refugees that they're talking about here and those refugees? I could guess. I mean, I think everyone...
They're white.
They're white. Thank you. They are white. And I think, look, if that is how you feel, fine, then hold the line. But there are people all over the world, even people in this country right now, who are seeking, who have sought asylum, who are going through the process of asylum seeking, and have been detained by ICE and are being deported. There's also a genocide happening in the Congo right now that I don't see any Congolese being getting relief to come to this country. So there are Afghanis that helped us in Afghanistan that we have left behind. Even the last administration didn't do right by them. This administration can do right by them, but they are not, because it doesn't fit the narrative of the type of immigrants that we want in our country.
And even saying, there is also a genocide happening in Congo. We got to be careful about acknowledging that there's a genocide in South Africa.
That's right. There is no genocide.
No, of course, we're in agreement there. I mean, certainly there are white people in South Africa who have been victims of crimes. That happens all over the world. That certainly does not entitle someone to the level of persecution to be entitled to asylum in the United States. When we, as a nation, are turning away people, forget the woke stuff. I mean, literally, people who assisted the United States military in Afghanistan are not being admitted to this country now in favor of white South Africans under some genocide narrative that is just nonsense.
Look at where the Western democracies have landed. Look at that clip there. When asked directly, the lady didn't really have an answer, and then she was prompted. Well, it's because they're white, and she said, yeah, it's because they're white. Thank you. What a lovely, lovely thing to say on national television. And this is the state that we've got ourselves into in the West with all of these racial issues. We need to be abandoning all talk of black and white. Obviously, these farmers are running for their life. If I was in South Africa and I had, a holding and I was listening to that freedom fighter earlier, it wouldn't take me very long to grab my family, jump on a plane and go anywhere that would take me. And the fact that these people can't even recognize it just really goes to show that Western society has, been infected with racism, with talk of race continually. It's all we do all of the time. And the very fact that those two people there feel they can go on national television and say that, well, really says it all, doesn't it? Thanks for your time.